Welcome you all to the second day of our national conference on the economy and law. On behalf of Marathwada Mitra Mandal, Shankarrao Chavan Law College and Department of Law, University of Mumbai, I welcome today's speaker, Professor Dr. M.S. Deshmukh sir. Sir, thank you so much for accepting the invitation and making time to guide our students. So thank you so much on behalf of both of the institutions. Swati ma'am is soon be joining. She'll be there for the vote of thanks as well. Without further delay, I request Shantanu to proceed further.
Yes, sir. Today, I welcome everyone to this second day of National Conference on the topic of creative economy for sustainable development. And today, we are extremely fortunate to have Dr. Mahadev Deshmukh sir amongst us, who will guide us on the topic of economy and sustainable development. Now, without wasting further time, I would just like to briefly introduce our today's keynote speaker, Dr. Mahadev Deshmukh sir, to all of us. So, sir is currently professor at Department of Economics, Shivaji University, Kolhapur. He holds expertise in agricultural economics. Sir has completed his master's from University of Mumbai and then PhD from Shivaji University, Kolhapur. Sir is also recipient of the prestigious Dr. Dhananjay Rao Gadkari Award and Radhakrishnan Gold Medal. Along with that, Sir has also been a member of various professional bodies, which include esteemed organizations such as the Indian Institute of Economics, Indian Economic Association, etc. Besides that, Sir has also been the director of Internal Quality Assurance Cell, Shivaji University, and IC Director of Shivaji Center for Innovation, Incubation and Linkages. Sir is also working on some of the crucial research projects which are funded by notable government bodies. Last but not the least, I would like to mention this that Sir has almost 49 publications on his name, and Sir is also guide to several doctoral theses for PhD students. I personally feel that Sir's achievements are overwhelming, and we as students have much to learn from him and have much to take inspiration from him. So without further delay, I rest my words now, and I kindly request our keynote speaker for today, Dr. Mahadev Deshmukh sir, to deliver his address. Hand over to you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Satrunay, for the brief introduction covering all the aspects of the entire career. At the outset, I am very much thankful to the Marathwada Mitra Mandal Shankarrao Chavan Law College, Pune, which is affiliated to Savitribai Phule Pune University. And this particular national conference on creative economy for sustainable development, really it is a very interesting and a very challenging topic. And this particular conference, which this college has organized in collaboration with Department of Law, University of Mumbai. On behalf of Shivaji University, Kolhapur, and on behalf of myself, I place my sincere thanks for coming forward and organizing such kind of conferences for the beneficiaries of the stakeholders. I am also thankful to the organizing committee of both the institutes, Principal Dr. Kranti Deshmukh, Dr. Rajeshri Varandi, who is the head of the Department of Law, University of Mumbai, and Dr. Swati Rautela, who was my colleague in the Somaya Institute, Ghatkopar, Mumbai. We were working together for many years, and subsequently I switched to the Shivaji University in the Department of Economics. And I'm also thankful to one of the leading coordinator of this particular college, that's Sri Saurabh Ubale, who was in constant touch with me to come over for this particular conference and guide for the students of this particular institute. So once again, I am very much thankful for inviting me and allowing me to share my views on the occasion of this particular conference. As I am told that the topic which is allotted to me is the economy and the sustainability. I know that most of the participants and the students of your institute is associated with the law. So economics and law, for them, it will become a little difficult to understand. But in the simplest way, one of the paper this particular students must be having at their either undergraduate or the postgraduate level, they should know that the fundamentals of economic theory. But taking that base into account, I will proceed for the topic which have been allotted to me, and that's the economy and sustainability. Moving about the topic, what I said is of economy and the sustainability. Fundamentally, the economics which comes under the social science, because we know that in the branch of the humanities or maybe in the natural science, we will have the economics, sociology, psychology, etc. These are the subject which comes under the humanity. And once it comes under the humanity, it is associated with the satisfaction level or the welfare, or what one call as utility maximization of the community or the society as such. So there is always a constant touch from this particular branch for the benefit of the community or the standard of living improvement of the community. And that's what this particular branch does. And from that particular aspect point of view, economics and sustainability becomes very important, very vital topic for the masses of the community to know it. And that's why I appeal to all these participants to pay a clear-cut attention on how the economics and the development, and particularly the sustainable development, which is very important from the any economy point of view, including developing or developed countries. Moving further and talking about the word what we call as a sustainability. The sustainability word recently, which we find as a new, but that exactly is the not new, because we are giving more focus recently because of many difficulties, many issues, many challenges, which the world as well as economies which are facing. And from that particular aspect point of view, here, sustainability is the capacity to endure in relatively ongoing way across various domains of life. So we know that as we proceed, as we survive, there are many difficulties, many things which comes in our life. So from that particular aspect point of view, this term sustainability, which is very crucial. It also refers generally to the capacity for Earth's biosphere and human civilization to coexist. So we know that we are not separate from each other. We are the part and the parcel of the community, when part and the parcel of the society, we are part and parcel of the nature. And from that particular aspect point of view, one has to look into. And that is why sustainability, which means, technically that means meeting our own needs without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. In addition to natural resources, we also need social as well as economic resources. So we know that here there are two things in our social science and particularly economics. One is a man is always trying to increase his or her own wants. So we have a term in economics that we call as our wants are always unlimited. So once we fulfill one want, then automatically another wants gets created. So this is the multiplication of the wants that goes on, but to fulfill that wants, we should know that there are the resources required, and all these resources, that's the wealth, which is not unlimited, rather that is limited, or not only the limited, that is exactly the scarce. So there is a scarcity of resources which are there on this earth, or these resources are limited, but our wants are unlimited. That's why there is always a fight between the current generation and the future generation. And that is why it is very important for us to keep something for the next generation. And this is what the sustainability is the term which is very important for the community's point of view. If we talk about sustainability, economy, etc., then definitely the question comes in everybody's mind that why sustainability is so important. If we talk about the importance of the sustainability, here there are 2 to 3 aspects, or there are 2 to 3 reasons. The first reason is environmental quality point of view, because one has to protect the environment. For example, forest is a part of the environment. That's why they're taking care of the trees, taking the care of the forest. That is very important. That's why in order to have healthy communities, we need clean air, natural resources, and a non-toxic environment. And from that aspect point of view, the term sustainability is of very important. Another reason to talk about the sustainability's point of view is growth. Here, I'm not talking just about the economic growth, the growth in general. So we require more resources. And what are the resources? For example, energy is one resource. Water, that may be safe drinking water, or that may be water available for the agriculture or industry or the trade, commerce, services. That may be what we call as water, maybe for irrigation purpose. And the space, maybe the construction of houses or the industry. From that aspect point of view, the sustainability aims to use our resources efficiently to benefit the community. So what the resources we have, we should use it in such a way that it should maximize the satisfaction level of the society. And from that reason, this sustainability is very important. And the third and the last aspect of importance of sustainability is healthcare. Sustainability and the healthcare both are going together. That's why we call here as intricately. Why they are related with each other? Because the quality of our environment that affects the public health. And for example, many health issues which are directly or indirectly related to the aspects like air, water quality, etc. So why the clean air or the safe water, maybe safe drinking water, and maintaining that, keeping that within the society, within the community, or in the environment. And from that aspect point of view, healthcare, which is very important. Now, going ahead and talking about, there are many terms which are coming in the literature. We are moving from a growth to development towards the sustainable development. And we know that there were many aspects which have come in the recent past. One is what we call as a Millennium Development Goal. It's popularly known as MDGs. That is got over in the year 2016. And subsequently SDG, that's a Sustainable Development Goal that has been come out. There are 17 goals which I am covering subsequently in my presentation. So till the 2030, that is the target given to the world to attain all that goals. But I want to mention that we have not yet fulfilled all the goals which were there under the MDGs. There were some limitations for that, but we are going for further to complete or fulfill the sustainable development goals. From that point of view, here the concept of sustainability or the concept of sustainable development, which is very emphasized, and more emphasis which has been given by UNCED, that's United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, which has been taken place in the world. That particular conference, which has given more importance to and ask the world to think about sustainable development point of view. And that's why that stage onwards, or that conference onwards, the term sustainable or sustainable development has become more popular. And that's why your sustainable development, what that means from UNCED's point of view is that meet the need of the present generation without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. And that is one of the popular definition, or the popular what one call as a meaning of the term sustainable development is given by WCED. That's WCED is nothing but World Commission on Environment and the Development, which has made this particular definition in the year 1987 in their own what one call as publication, what we call as our common future. That is what in that they have defined the term sustainable development. But once we talk about this sustainability, basically there are certain issues which are coming in everybody's mind, including me also. Those who are here in this particular conference, they can also think from this point of view, that is why these are the basic issues which come out for the sustainability. And one of them is the sustainable development basically implies for the attainment of objectives of intergenerational equity. So we know that equity, that may be the gender equity, that may be social equity, or that may be even income equity, whatever may be the form of equity. But to attain that objective, the sustainable development, which is also very important. That is one of the important challenge before us. Other one is the main issue which is associated with setting up of priorities between the welfare of the presently deprived families and the sustainability of resource use. So there are many things which are required for human beings to survive or to live within the community of the society. So each one, each family, each state, each region, each nation, which gives their own priorities. And once we give the priorities are associated with either the welfare or that may be associated with the use of appropriate resources. So one has to have balance between these two terms. One side there should be the maximum welfare, other side there will be the optimum use of natural or man-made resources. So by doing that, one can maintain the what one call as a satisfaction level of the community at the highest level. And that's why setting up the priority becomes another important issue from sustainability point of view. The third problem or the issue is priority setting gets further compounded due to the existence of very large interpersonal, inter-regional, and inter-country inequalities in the livelihood of the present generation. So we know that there are disparities or there is a variation between either within a community or within the region, that may be district, that may be the taluka or the tehsils, or that may be the nations, what we call as the developed countries, underdeveloped countries, less developed countries, or developing nations. So all these are there. So I hear this is the existence is because of some kind of problem which are associated with setting up the priorities. And that is why who should set the priority? The question arises, the problem arises that is associated with who should define or who should set what type of priorities or what priority should be given. And the last two issues which are associated with which section of the present generation should be accorded priority over other sections or over future generation. So one should know that if the present generation is consuming the maximum of that resources which are non-renewable, then lesser will remain for the next generation. So that's what it is there. That's why these priorities which are very important. And the last issue is who should define how to define the needs of present generation. That should be foregone in the interest of the sustainability. I mean, the needs or the wants of the present generation, how to define that itself is a challenge, either to limit with necessities or to limit with comforts or to limit with luxurious, that matters. And that is why from this point of view, this issue is very important to discuss in the today's conference. So once we discuss all that, so we know here the overall economy, which is basically classified into three parts. What we categorize as a primary economy, secondary economy, and the tertiary economy. So a primary economy means that economy which is associated with the agriculture and allied sector. Secondary economy is associated with industry, manufacturing, and mining. And the tertiary economy is that economy which is associated completely with the service sector, for example, banking, insurance, trade, commerce, etc. Of all these activities, and if you combine all these activities income, then we can get a national income or the income of the economy. But from all these activities, no activity is lesser important, but agriculture plays a very important role because a dependence level of our economy on agriculture sector till date is of higher. And once we have majority of the population which depends on this sector and which is the largest, definitely the welfare of that community or that dependent population is to be given more attention. And from that point of view, there are many problems which every economy faces, and particularly developing economy faces, is like, for example, shortage of food grain production or inadequate production of food grain, health services, livelihood as well as sustainability, poverty, or development of rural economy, the inclusive growth. All these are the terms or all these are the aspects which are very important that need to be tackled by every developing economy in a proper way. And that's why once we want to tackle that, then how it should be in a way to tackle, for example, there should be reduction of the poverty. If the poverty is more, one has to reduce it. If there is a malnutrition, if there is a starvation, that is to be minimized. Nobody should die because of not having a food. So there should be no death because of hunger. Ecological balance is to be maintained. So one has to protect, one has to conserve the soil, one has to protect the forest, one has to protect the biodiversity. So from all these aspect point of view, one has to generate the employment, to create some income, to buy certain essential things, goods, services for the survival point of view. So from all this aspect point of view, the sustainability is of very important. So once we understood that, why the sustainability is more important, what are the challenges which we do have before us talking about the sustainability point of view, then sustainable economic development, what exactly means? So a sustainable economic development is the national initiative built on local economies, which is on unique assets to address their individual challenges and provide quantifiable real-world benefits, and is a practically implementable toolkit that tailors or that adjusts strategies to work for local people, business community, as well as the institutions. So from that particular aspect point of view, one has to look the sustainable economic development. But if you see the journey of the sustainability, it means what is the literature and how we have proceeded from the earlier stage of development to that stage of development, what we call as sustainable development. If we go back and see the ideas of Malthus, for example, Malthus has given a theory, what we call as a theory of transition. So it was associated with the population, and his ideas were that a population is increasing at an arithmetic mean, but a population is increasing at a geometric mean, and the food grain is increasing at an arithmetic mean. So there will be the gap, and that will lead to shortage of food and what we call as insecurity. So that was the idea which has been coined by the Malthus in the year 1798, and subsequently Mills in the year 18th, Ratzel-Casson in the year 1965 in the form of Silent Spring, and the Club of Rome report, which has been come out in the year 1972, that has become very popular at that time, and that was associated with the limit to growth. It means there were many social scientists who were talking that to what extent one can give more of importance to the term what we call as the growth. Is it to be limited? So that limit is to be given for that, because at the cost of what you can call as destruction of nature, one should not have to have only the quantifiable quantitative growth. So this was the term which has become very popular in the year 1972, and that's what the idea of Club of Rome report is popular. And that's why many historical predicted various problems, and we have tried to solve these problems. But can we always find a technological solution to our own problem? That was the issue which has been come out. And if we see the recent milestones in the literature of sustainability, we find that, as I said, in the year 1972, where the first time this term which has been used as a sustainable development in one of the international conference in the Stockholm, which has been conducted in the Sweden, and from that year onwards, I mean the 1972 is the what we can call as a breakthrough year to think from the sustainable development point of view that started to begin. And then in 1980, where International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, briefly we call as IUCN, the Worldwide Fund for Nature, so WWF, this is the popular term you know, and United Nations Environmental Program, that's the UNEP, they have been produced the World Conservation Strategy in the year 1980, and subsequently a Brundtland Commission, which has been come out in the year 1983, and from 1987 onwards, this commission has become existing and started to function, and that's why our common future is one of the report which has been come out, and there it has been technically or scientifically, they have defined the sustainable development term, and that says sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. And this is the popular concept which has made popular by the Brundtland Commission since 1987. And in the recent past, in the year 1992, UNCED has come out with the one of the conference, and they have put up the idea related to agenda of the 21st century and an extensive international agenda for action for sustainable development, which got discussed in the year 1992 by UNCED, and in the year 2000, the United Nations Million Summit, where I was referring as MDG, Million Development Goals, etc. So thinking of that started. So in the headquarters of the New York of UN, they adopted the United Nations Millennium Declarations and to reduce extreme poverty with a series of time-bound targets with a deadline of 2015, and that have come out known as Millennium Development Goal. So as I made a reference earlier, so in the year 2016, we have completed this Millennium Development Goals and come out with a Sustainable Development Goals that will keep on till 2030. So in 2002, World Summit on Sustainable Development, which took place in the South Africa, and that is what the basic literature background related to the sustainability. If we talk about a conflicting as aspect of sustainable development, what we find that there are three terms which I am using. One is value, other one is belief, and third one is circumstances. But this term, which is a different things to the different people sometimes, and it will be driven by the individuals or the group of the peoples, or maybe any system which will have value, belief, and circumstances. And from that point of view, this is the slide which focuses on something that you or a group think is good thing or make life meaningful, and what the belief is a starting point for the developed argument, not limited to religious or the faith context, but the circumstances may be a personal factor, or it may be such as a parental influence, or it may be because of relative wealth, disability, gender, etc. That may be the circumstances, and because of that, the concept somebody thinks differently. So I'm moving further and talking about sustainable economic development assessment, what we briefly call as a SEDA. So this I have plugged into three parts. One is economics, other one is investments, and third one is the sustainability. What are the part of the economics? One is what we call as income. This is a very important and fundamental part for the what you can call as livelihood of the people point of view. Then economic stability, employment. These were the three aspects of the economics. Investment point of view, health, education, and infrastructure. Once we have the income, then where we will invest, where one should invest, education sector and the infrastructure sector, that may be roads, railways, bridges, dams, etc. And the sustainability is income, equity, civil society, governance, what we call as good governance, environment, I mean the protection of the environment. From that point of view, this sustainability is taken into account. So these are the three aspects, and there are sub-aspects which are very important from the SEDA's point of view. As I said earlier, from Millennium Development Goal, we are moving to the Sustainable Development Goals. All these sustainable goals, I mean, there are 17 sustainable goals, but today I will cover some of them, but I will mention all this, but elaboration will be given for a few of them. The first important sustainable goal is no poverty. In a Millennium Development Goal, the target was to reduce the poverty, to minimize the poverty, to bring down the goal. The target is kept as target till 2030 before the world. Then second one is a zero hunger. No single death should take place in this world because of shortage of food. There should not be starvation. There should not be malnourishment. So the target given to the world by the Sustainable Development Goal is to bring it down to zero. So nil hunger or the zero hunger is the second SDG. Then good health and well-beings. Quality education. Education should be there, but that should impart the qualitative aspect, skill-oriented aspect. Gender equality is another important aspect of the SDG. Clean water and sanitation. Then affordable and the green or clean energy. Diligent work and economic growth. Industry, innovations, and infrastructure, that also becomes one of the target of SDG. Reduce inequalities, that's very important from economic sustainability point of view. Sustainable cities and the communities, where we are coming out with the concept of smart city. Resource consumption and production, that also becomes one of the target of SDG. And other targets are climate actions, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and partnership for the goals. These are the 17 targets which are in the form of sustainable development goal before us to fulfill at the time of 2030. Moving further and talking about some of this, what exactly mean and what is the statistics for that, some statistical figures I have brought before you. The first target, as per the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, is only 45% of the world population, which is covered by the least one social protection, what we call as a cash benefit. Right? Only the 45% people which are getting this benefit. Cash benefit is in the form of income term. And other one is economic losses attributed to disasters where there is more than $300 billion by 2017. So this much is the loss each economy is having in the world. Second one is zero hunger or no starvation. And this is very important to promote sustainable agriculture or sustainable development. And from that aspect point of view, world hunger is on the rise again. So we know that from 2000 till 2015, here the hunger ratio, which was showing a declining trend, but 2015 onwards, we do find there is a jump which has taken place towards support. So this is not a good symptom from the sustainability point of view, and world has to look into this aspect. I mean, the food security is to be paid more attention. Other one is, if the people are getting the food, but that food don't have, suppose, the nutritional qualities, or it is less in nutrition, then what happens? The problems like stunting, wasting, overweight, these are the issue arises either because of shortage of food or excess food. From that point of view, it is affected around millions of children under the age of 5 in 2017, and the statistics says the stunting children were 151 million, and wasting were 51 million, and overweight is having 38 billion. That was the statistic which has come out in a Sustainable Development Report of the year 2018. Other goal is ensure healthy life and promote well-being for all. From that point of view, so institutional deliveries, if you take this term into account, so 2000 till 2005, 62% were the what you can call as institutional delivery, which was taking place. But 2012 to 17 onwards, there is of 80%, and we have improved a lot in that. But still, because of such kind of pandemic situations, here attention to be given more on the health sector. So the world is not on a track to end malaria by 2030, because if you see in the year 2013, there were 210 million cases which has been detected all over the world. And in 2016, 216 million cases which we find in the form of malaria infection. So at 210 to 216 million, that is an improvement, that's an increase in the cases. That is not a good symptom for the healthy economy point of view or the healthy world point of view. So one has to pay more attention in this aspect also. And the under 5 death, well, what we call as infant mortality rate between 2000 to 2016, here 9.9 million people, and 2016 we find 5.6 million. Some extent we have started a declining trend in this. But the talking about a different kind of pandemics, different kind of diseases, for example, malaria, for example, a recent pandemic case like COVID-19, these are coming out. That's why paying more attention towards the health sector is need of the hour from the sustainable development point of view. Other development goals defined by the what we call as the Sustainable Development Report. One is more than half of the children and adolescents are not achieving minimum proficiency. This is from the education sector point of view and quality education sector point of view. The minimum proficiency in reading and the mathematics. So 58% children, we do find that they can't talk fluently as well as they can't solve elementary mathematics. So this is what one of the statistics we say that basic improvement is required from the quality education point of view. And if you see that teachers who train these children, so their statistics point of view, more trained teachers are needed for quality education. And from the world point of view, 85% teachers which are having less trained from the primary education point of view. Southern Asia and Sub-Sahara Africa, the statistics is of 71% and 61%. Next goal, which is about the gender equality and empowerment of the human, that is of the need of the hours to bridge the gap between the male and female. And from that point of view, child marriages, and if you talk about the Southern Asia, which has been reduced by over 40% between 2000 to 2017. And that's a good symptom from the gender equity point of view. And talking about the women who spend their valuable times, particularly 3 times as many hours in unpaid domestic and care work as men. If you compare the time spent by the woman compared with men, talking about the domestic unpaid work, the woman is spending 3 times more than men. It means the ratio is 1:3 men for women. And the another aspect of sustainable development is availability and sustainable management, talking about the what you can call as here sanitation as well as the access to safe drinking water. If you see that, and the world scenarios tells us in this particular statistics that 3 in 10 people lack access to safely managed drinking water services. Out of 10 people, only 3 people are getting, 7 people are not. And that's why from this aspect point of view, one has to think more from the development point of view. And if you talk about the sanitation facilities managed by the people, we find that 6 in 10 people which lack access to safe managed sanitation facility. So both are the things from the social equity point of view, which are very important. And that's why if you move at all to fulfill this target, definitely a lot more improvement is required in this. And if you talk about the conservation of resources, that may be sea, that may be ocean, that may be forest, and this is the environmental aspect point of view. So what the statistics in the Sustainable Development Report talks about, mean coverage of marine KBAs increased between 2000 to 2018 from 30% to the 44%. And talking about open ocean site shows a current level of acidity have increased by 26% since the start of the industrial revolution. So these are the parameters which are associated with ecology, which is associated with environment. And this is the criteria which is very important from sustainability point of view. Moving further and talking about sustainability, sustainable development, and subsequently Sustainable Livelihood Security Index. So this is a new concept which has been coined by a great scientist, Indian scientist, popularly what we call as Dr. Swaminathan. So in the year 1991, he has constructed or designed a term what is called as the concept of SLSI. SLSI means Sustainable Livelihood Security Index. This particular Sustainable Livelihood Security Index, which talks about 3 parameters. One is ecology, other one is economics, and third one is equity of the society. So ecology means environment, economics is nothing but economic efficiency, and the society is nothing but equity. These are the 3 parameters, and the summation of these 3 parameters will give some index, and that index is called as Ecological Security Index for ecology, economic efficiency index for economic efficiency, and social equity index for the society. So this is what we are doing. And on this particular aspect, with at presently I am working one of the project which has been sanctioned by the ICSSR, Indian Council of Social Science Research. 2 years back, they have been funded this project, the Department of Economics, and I am heading that. And the amount which has been sanctioned by the ICSSR is of almost rupees 10 lakh. And that is what we are using for the construction of the Sustainable Livelihood Index in particularly Western Maharashtra. And that is what the background which I have taken in the form of sustainable development by the approach of SLSI. Moving further and talking about designing of SCLC. Now hereafter I will call as SCLC. It means Sustainable Livelihood Security Index. So to design this, a research methodology which has been used at present, which the project which I am running is associated with the construction of SCLC. Basically, idea of the SSI in India is designed by the Swaminathan, taking his model further, and we are applying in the form of applied economics, particularly in the certain states of India, some of the districts of Maharashtra, and more focusing on the major districts of the Western Maharashtra and their own blocks. And for that point of view, what is more important is identification of the various variables or the indicators. Some of the indicators may be the positive indicators, some of the indicators may be the negative indicators. And that if you take into account with the help of these two formulas, one formula which will talk about negative indicators point of view, and the second formula which will be talking about a positive indicators, negative indicators point of view, and the first one is from the positive indicators point of view. But taking that into account, what the formula says, this formula is more or less associated with the Human Development Index. So HDI, UNDP always comes out with Human Development Report, and they construct a Human Development Index. Online with that, also we are designing a Sustainable Livelihood Security Index. And as per the above formula, we do that, but we take care of the variables which are positive as well as negative while calculating that. And once we sum up this, so the summation of these three variables, what are the three indicators? One is ecology related, other one is economy efficiency related, and third one is social equity, or what you could call as society related. If you merge it together, if we take a summation of that, an average mean of that, one can get an index, and the value of that index which will lie between 0 and 1. If we talk about a 0, the development is less. If you go ahead towards 1, the development is of more. And between 0 and 1, the development is of either less or maybe moderate or maybe higher, etc. So that is a categorization we will see subsequently. But this is the basic research methodology which is used. While doing this kind of project work, what we understood is there are certain elements of sustainability, and these are the triangular elements, what we call as the three elements. And these elements are given by WCED, that's World Commission on Environment and Development, in the year 1987. And that's the definition which has been coined for the sustainable development point of view, which has become very popular. And these three elements are environment is one, economy is another, and the society is the third. If we talk in a different way, then one can say that these elements are in the form of 3E model. In the form of 3E model, it means the model is associated with ecology, economy, and equity. So the first word E, and if you take these three triangles, then it becomes 3E model, and which we are using for the construction of Sustainable Livelihood Security Index. It means SCLC. If we talk about the first 3E of this 3E, the first E of 3E is related to environment or the ecology. So while constructing this environment or ecology index, environment efficiency index, there are the criteria and there are the indicators. The criteria is ecological balance is to be maintained. A degradation of the ecology should not take place. A pressure on natural resources which are taking place, or the cropping pattern is associated with agricultural indicator. So that's happening. So if you take to measure this, there are certain indicators which has been considered. Forest cover, how much is the forest cover of a particular block, maybe taluka, maybe district, maybe state, or maybe the nation. So that is a positive indicator from the sustainability point of view. So larger the forest cover, more will be the sustainability, and lesser the forest cover, less will be the sustainability. So that's why it is called as positive indicator. Density of population, we know that a people per square kilometer is the criteria to measure. But this density of population from the sustainability and environmental sustainability point of view is a negative indicator, because more the people, more will be the burden on the environment. So larger the density, lesser will be the sustainability, and lesser the density, here more will be the sustainability. So inversely, this particular indicator which works. Talking about the total livestock means cattle, buffaloes, or in general, animal husbandry as such. This indicator is taken in both the way positive as well as the negative. But here I took as a negative because if we have more and more these animals or what we call as a livestock, then more and more grazing which will take place. And that will result in lesser what one call as a forest land, or maybe what one call as in Marathi call as gairan. So here the total livestock which will having an indirect impact on the sustainability, particularly from the environment point of view. And the cropping intensity. Cropping intensity is that indicator which will be taken as in a particular plot, how many times we are cultivating. If a particular plot, 2 times we are cultivating in a year, that cropping intensity is 2. If a particular plot 3 times we are cultivating in a year, then cropping intensity is of 3. So the larger the cropping intensity or the more the cropping intensity, more will be the environment sustainability and vice versa. So this is what the criteria and the indicators from element of environment sustainability point of view. Economic efficiency point of view and their impact on the sustainability. There are 4 indicators. One is food grain production, other one is per capita income, sugarcane area cultivation, and the milk production, because all these 4 indicators which are generating some kind of source of income for the livelihood. So food grain, this is very basic and very fundamental for the consumption point of view, maybe cereals, pulses, etc. Per capita income is average income per head, how much we are earning, each individual, how much they are earning on an average. That's also taken into account. Sugarcane area cultivation, that is a commercial crop that gives some income. Milk production from the rural economy point of view, the major source of livelihood from other than agriculture is animal husbandry or dairy farming. And that is what which gives some income to each family if they have this livestock. So all these indicators are the positive indicators, and larger the size of this indicator, more will be the economic efficiency, and accordingly there will be more sustainability and vice versa. That's why this is the element of economic sustainability. Third one is equity or the society, and their indicators from the sustainability point of view is considered in as a project where a female literacy is taken as a positive indicator. Sex ratio, male-female ratio is also a positive indication. So if the ratio is larger, then it will have better equity within the society. Infant mortality rate, I mean the rate death of a child below 5 years, that's why what we call as infant baby, we call as infant mortality rate. That is the negative indicator. Larger the rate in a country, lesser will be the sustainability or the equity compared to others. And human development index is also taken as one of the indicator from this equity point of view and subsequently sustainability point of view. And that is considered as a positive because it talks about health, it talks about education, and it talks about what we call as a standard of living. So these are the combination of 3 parameters which we do have in human development index. And if you take all these 3 indicators of sustainable livelihood security index, then we will have health community model, some of the good parameters of the economy, some of the good parameters of the environment, that's what ecology, and some of the good parameters of equity of the society. If you combine it together, then we will have this health, and the better the health, better will be the community, and we will have healthy community, and that's what a sustainability which is taken into consideration. If you go more for the statistics, I know that this particular statistic figures which will become a little boring for the audience to go through, but this statistical figure is not only the figure, but it is the calculated result which we have derived from the earlier equations which we have got. If we talk about the economic efficiency indicator point of view, and if we talk various states in India, and if you see that how much is the efficiency of per capita income at India level is 0.2, then food grain production is 0.3, and the consumption of fertilizer is 0.4, the consumption of area under the sugarcane is of 0.4, and what we call as milk production is of 0.2, and summation of that gives us economic efficiency. But if you see that in a per capita income, which is the state which is having a largest economic efficiency. And if you see that, then we do find that Goa is a state in India whose economic efficiency is highest in India. Talking about the food grain production, the food grain production whose efficiency is the highest, Punjab is the state in India who is having highest economic efficiency compared to rest of the states. Talking about the consumption of fertilizer, which is the state is utilizing more consumption of fertilizer. Once again, the Punjab is the state in India of the available states whose the economic efficiency related to consumption of fertilizer is of highest. Talking about the sugarcane area, if we talk about sugarcane yield, which is the state is having, for example, highest efficiency, then we do find that here here West Bengal is the state whose efficiency is of highest. And talking about milk production, here efficiency is of highest, and that is of Uttar Pradesh. So here these are the states, and either of the state which is of in a better position from economic efficiency point of view compared to the other states. If you go further and see about ecological security index, ecological security index is associated with the environment. And this particular graph, which will tell us which state is having the highest ecological security in India. So the Tripura, we do find that Tripura is one of the state which is having highest environmental security. I mean, the ecological security index of Tripura is very, very high compared to the rest. But whose is having the lowest? The lowest here we do find is for example, here is of Andhra Pradesh. So Andhra Pradesh is having lowest. Even Uttar Pradesh is also having the lowest. Even Maharashtra is also having some kind of lesser impact. Karnataka is also having some kind of lesser impact. I mean, these are the progressive states whose ecological security index is of lower. So those states which development index is of higher, ecology index of that state is of lesser. This is of economic efficiency. As I said earlier also, economic efficiency index of Punjab is higher, then Maharashtra is also higher. Then here is of Jharkhand is of also higher. So these were the states where even Andhra Pradesh is of also highest, where economic efficiency index is of higher. Talking about a social equity index. So a social equity index of available 29 states in this study, we understand that the highest social equity index is of Kerala. So Kerala's social equity index is highest, which is having a number 1. Then followed by Goa. Next to Kerala, Goa is one of the state whose social equity index is also higher, that ranks second. But of all this available state, which state is having the lowest social equity index? Uttar Pradesh state in India, whose social equity index is of lowest among all the states during 2015 to 2019. So these were the index which have been calculated on the basis of sustainable livelihood security index formula. And one can compare, one can understand which state is having number 1 rank in which indicator and which is having a lowest rank in which indicator. And aggregate, if you take economic, ecology, and social security index taken together, we will have a sustainability livelihood security index. It's a summation of all these 3 indicators. And we find that India's sustainable livelihood security index of ecology was 0.47, economy was 0.48, and equity is of 0.017. That's the average figure we got. So, a comparison wise, equity index of our India is very, very less. But among these, there are various states. We understand Kerala is one of the states whose sustainable livelihood security index is of higher. Sustainable livelihood security index is of higher comparison wise. Before 14 And after 15, we understand that the index was 0.69, subsequently it is of 0.70. The improvement in sustainable index is taken place in the Kerala. Subsequently, in India also, there is a slight improvement we do find during both the period. But rank-wise, SLSI point of view, Kerala ranked #1 among all the states in India for both the period 2009, 2014, as well as 2015 and 2016. If you take these two durations, period 1 and period 2, 10, 14 is the period 1, and 2015 to 2019 is the period 2, what is the net change in sustainable livelihood security index of all the states of India which has been taken place? If you see this particular slide and the graph, I mean the bar graph, we come to know that there are only 6 states which has shown a declining trend or the negative trend in SLSI change. So I here the 1, here 2, here 3, here 4, slightly this is 5, and this one is a 6. So these are the 6 states whose trend is of having a declining trend, and the rest of the states are having a positive or plus change in the sustainability livelihood security index point of view. It means in general, sustainable livelihood security index of all the states except 6 states in India has shown the improvement. It means on an average, there is overall improvement in India's sustainable development or sustainable livelihood security index, which has taken place. Coming to the second last slide, where I have categorized all these states into the group of SLSI values, who are very low, who are medium, who are high, and who are very high. We understand that from SLSI principle or approach point of view, neither a state in India is in low category, very low category, or very high category. So a very low and very high category, no state belongs. In high category, there are only 2 states. One is a Punjab in one of the period, other one is a Goa. And once again, it is of Punjab. So Goa and Punjab, these are the only 2 states which are having high SLSI values. Medium and low, these are the states where I will not read and spend more on time, but this is what the fact of our Indian economy and states of Indian economy. The last slide is environment and sustainability point of view is why this is happening, because a degradation of the land as well as the forest which is taking place. Degradation of the land is nothing but more and more use of chemical fertilizer, which is resulting into degradation of the quality of a soil, and subsequently the production of the yield of the agriculture sector decline. This is a long term it happens. So these are the reasons. Biodiversity loss which is taking place, air pollution because of industrial production or the chemical pollutant industries, noise pollutions, air pollutions, or maybe water pollution. That's why pollution in general, which also affect management of fresh water. It becomes very challenging and a very important task before the world, including India, because getting safe drinking water, because the ground table year-wise that's going down, and that becomes a very important challenge for the economy in general, Indian economy in general, and world in particular. And solid waste management, we know that once we are paying more attention to the cities and mega cities and metro cities, waste which comes out from that is polluting the nearby rivers, and accordingly, the water pollution is also taking place. So these are the very important things which are very important for all of us to think over from the sustainability point of view. And that is why economy and sustainability is one of the very, very important aspect, and attention is to be paid very urgently, because SGD, Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, which has been come into force since 2016 onwards, and the target is to fulfill till 2030. From that particular aspect point of view, the model which I have presented today in this national conference, which will be very useful for the policymakers to think over from the attainment of target point of view. With this, I once again place my sincere thanks to the organizing committee of the college as well as the Department of Law, University of Mumbai, for giving me the opportunity to share my views on the occasion. Thank you very much. Yes.
Yes, sir. It was certainly a thought-provoking session. And you have rightly pointed out that the importance of priority setting, significance of agriculture, then journey of sustainability, then conflicting aspects of sustainable development, and you have also presented informative statistical data. So I, on behalf of Marathwada, Mitra, Shankarrao, Chavan Law College and Department of Law, University of Mumbai, express my deepest gratitude towards you, and we are looking forward for more and more sessions from you. I express my gratitude for accepting our invitation, then sparing time from your busy schedule. And thank you so much, sir. We are looking forward for more collaboration from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. So you've meticulously pointed out the sustainability, economy, and the policy making perspective very perfectly. I hope this is just the start of our collaboration. Now our research team of our college is also working on agricultural marketing, and you are the perfect person to guide them in the practical approach of it. I think so, and so. We would like to have you not on the virtual platform, but soon on the campus. So to guide our students and to have the more interaction with our students. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting invitation and spending a huge time of yours with our students. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
So students will break for 20 minutes. So I welcome you back again in the last session of our 2 days national conference. Vishal, I'll hand over the further proceedings to you.
Right, sir.
Yes.
Good noon to one and all present here. Myself, Vishal Godke, would like to start with our sixth session of our national conference based on creative economy for sustainable development, organized by Marathwada Mitra Mandal Shankarrao Law College and Department of Law, University of Mumbai. I would like to thank respected Kranti Deshmukh ma'am and Rajeshri Baradi ma'am and also the Saurabh sir for giving us this opportunity. Today, in the sixth session, we are delighted to invite Ms. Pradnya Dasarwar ma'am. I would like to briefly introduce Ms. Pradnya ma'am to all. She has achieved her bachelor's and master's of arts in English literature. She also completed master's in philosophy, scoring first class in the year 2018-19. She completed master's in power participation and social change from the University of Britain with a distinction. She was selected for research scholarship at TU Dresden in Germany in the year 2004 and also for the Chevening Scholarship in the year 2018-19. Besides academics, she has contributed in various events such as training toolkit, village development planning, village integrated database formats, and over 40 collaborative learning sessions and 50 training programs on various issues such as research methods, women empowerment, self-governance in rural and urban areas, and much more. She is an active writer and started her literature journey from Yashada Institute in Pune in the year 2006. We are really pleased to welcome you here, ma'am. Now, I would like ma'am to further continue. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Vishal.
Thank you, ma'am.
For opening up the session, and thank you very much, Professor Saurabh, for inviting me on this a very innovative, I would say, and a creative conference for that matter. Very few, I would say, colleges take up such initiatives for students, and especially on such a current topic. To begin with, I would like to put in some disclaimers. One is that I'm currently, as I'm sure most of us are dealing with the COVID situation. And so I am, my husband was recently detected positive and is still hospitalized, recovering from it. And I'm staying with our friend's place, in our friend's place, helping him out with the hospitalization. So I'm kind of a bit distracted and preoccupied. So kindly, I'm sure everyone would understand that. And another thing is, because I'm not in my own house, I don't have control over the ambient noises that might happen. I'm staying at our friend's place. I'm very grateful that I have this space from where I can connect with all of you and join this session. So this is another, I would say, we are starting on a very creative note where the kind of issues that we are dealing with, on one hand, we are dealing with life and death situations, critical medical conditions, and on the other hand, we are able to confront here in academic issues like this. So I would say that any kind of crisis kind of pushes mankind to think more innovatively, to think creatively, and to come out of it. Starting on that, I would like to mention before I start is that Kalyan, my husband, he was also scheduled to conduct this session. Unfortunately, he is unable because he is still recovering from and is still hospitalized. But I think he has been able to join the session. So we have discussed today's session together. And there are certain ideas and certain views that I would share on his behalf as well. So just to ensure that there's no copyright infringement, I'm mentioning it upfront that there are certain ideas that I would share, which we have discussed together, that he has shared with me. So to begin today, I would say it's one of the toughest things to conduct the last session in any of the conferences because of 2-3 things. One is people are kind of saturated with the topic. They don't want to hear any more about it. 2, there's already a lot that has been spoken, and what more new things can now come up is a challenge. So I think it's interesting to face this challenge. One is to keep up the interest of everyone who has joined, and the other is to bring in different perspectives which have not been covered so far. So there are certain things that I would like to mention up front initially, just to be sure that we are on the same page, and then we will take on with the extension or the topic that we are going to deal with. So if I'm not mistaken, I just wanted to confirm I'm sharing the screen right now. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you're able to see it. Okay, great. So when I looked at this topic and I was discussing it with Kalyan, one thing that immediately came to the fore was that this whole idea of creative economy is very interesting, and especially connecting it with sustainable development, because currently sustainable development is the currency. You add sustainable development to anything and then it becomes kind of acceptable. Something that had happened to human development a decade ago, anything and everything had to be connected to human development, whether you want to get funding, whether you want to get your stuff published, whether you want to gain acceptance. So similarly has happened with sustainable development now, where it has become a currency. Unfortunately, it helps to bring certain issues to the fore. It helps in highlighting certain aspects which are sidelined, which are neglected. But at the same time, it also makes the concept a bit, what you would say, drab and, beyond a point meaningless, because anyone and everyone is using it to their convenience. So from that point of view, I would like to also brush up on sustainable development while we are talking, and also look at creative economy. But what struck us is that when you're talking about sustainable development, you cannot talk about it without understanding or thinking about the need of innovativeness, the need of creativity to make it possible. So you may have a clear idea of what is sustainable development, but how to make it happen in real life, that itself requires creativity, that itself requires innovativeness. And that is where we thought that, making it relevant in the real life, making it relevant in the daily life will requires creativity. So it, creative economy cannot be the only sector which can claim, its supremacy or its relevance to creativity. Creativity is something that extends beyond the creative economy and enters each and every sector or each and every aspect of our life, especially if you want to gain or achieve or live sustainably. I'm sure since yesterday, a lot of speakers and a lot of you, many of you have been through what is creative economy, and exploring this. What comes ahead is that obviously this is not something that is new. It is something that had started in a different form. It was something that was called creative industries, where very specific sectors were identified, which eventually led to this term of creative economy, which does not restrict itself to specific sectors of, say, performing arts or music or publishing or advertising, but it goes beyond. So it ranges. There are, publications which enumerate different creative, sectors that are encompassed in creative economy, to say 12 or 14. But it also, as you look through the literature, you see every country also defines this creative economy differently, because some of the countries go to the extent of including culinary, cuisines, gastronomic aspects, museums, and embedded cultural aspects into this whole concept of creative economy, and some don't. So every country has its own way of defining creative economy, and that is why today, during this session, I would like to focus more on or discuss about creative economy and even sustainable development from the point of view of, or rather from the Indian context. Because on one hand, this is the paradox of sustainable development. It is something that is across the globe. It is something that is relevant to anyone and everyone, be it someone living on Antarctica or someone living in Africa or someone living in Russia, in a village, on the mountains, on the coast, anywhere and everywhere. Sustainable development is something that is relevant to anyone and everyone today, be it human being or be it any other living form. But at the same time, it means it has a different connotation for every person. So on one hand, it is relevant to everyone, but at the same time, its meaning is kind of different. It has a different connotation for every person. And that is where the tricky part comes into picture. That is where, you know, people do not want to go into those nitty-gritties about sustainable development, because getting into the local aspect, getting into the contextual aspect is something that is the real challenge. So, so from creative industries, we are coming to creative economy, and then in creative economy, it says that those sectors which specialize in the use of creative talent for commercial purposes. So I would here like to underline, and as we go ahead in this discussion, I will, we'll also talk about it, that on one hand, it is focusing on creative talent, but given that it's creative economy, it is use of creative talent for commercial purposes.
Please turn off the mic.
So, so creative economy is focusing on the economic, financial, commercial aspect of creativity. As we go ahead, we'll also see, and that is where the question comes up, that what about those creative embedded aspects in a culture, in a society, which do not have commercial angle to it, but at the same time, they have a creative aspect to it, and they have a very important function. So what happens to those aspects? Another important and interesting factor that comes to the fore is getting the importance of that of oil. The importance that oil or fuel had in 20th century. The same importance or a similar kind of importance is being given to creativity in the 21st century. So we are still in the initial decades of this century. As it unfolds, I would to great extent agree to this, that especially in the context of sustainability and sustainable development, we are at a stage where we need to reinvent, redesign our lives in order to be able to survive as a species on this planet. So from that point of view, yes, I would say it is, fuel was used for development, for improvement. But if we do not use creativity, it will be a question of our own survival. So I would say to a great extent, it has gone, it has got importance even beyond the fuel. This is just a highlight. I would say that, in the conventional manner or in the conventional way, if we go to, there have been calculation of what creative economy in India, what is the extent, what is the financial extent of this creative economy in India, and it is going to 88,800 crore in 2016-17. That is the gross value added by the, by core copyright industry in India. So that is the extent of our creative economy in India. But again, this is something, again, more organized, more of creativeness. But as we move on, especially in India, what about those small artisans? If you step into a village, if you step into the rural parts, you have so many different art forms. You have, in case of Maharashtra, you have Varli. Almost, I wouldn't say with confidence now because the village structure has changed, but almost every third or fourth village will have a potter uh, who, who of course makes for a living, but there is art involved in it as well. You have artisans working with wood. You have artisans working with um, you know, with stone, as in sculpting, uh, which if you look closely, there is no great economic circulation around their art happening, but they're still a very integral part of the society uh, in case of India. So what is happening, or what would happen, how would you look at these people who many times live hand to mouth? So this is, just the starting note of, the broader picture of what creative economy uh, looks like at the at the global level, at the level of India. But as you look closely and go towards the villages and use your microscope, what kind of picture do you see? And does this economy really encompass all these issues, all these concerns, which are daily real life concerns for a lot of people? So another concept that we are connecting to is sustainable development. And I was talking to Professor Saurabh, and he told me that the earlier session was, discussed in detail about sustainable development, and talking about SDGs and how SDGs are dealing with sustainable development. So you have gone through what Brundtland report had to talk about sustainable development, is that meeting the present needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. So I wouldn't dwell on this too much, but just to ensure that there are some basic principles and ideas clear, so that when we are talking about them in the latter part of the session, it's not novel or incomprehensible. So some important factors of this definition is that this is one of the initial definitions, obviously, and people have built up on it, have further modified it, explored it, criticized it, torn it apart, all kinds of things. So still it sounds relevant and it's very easy to communicate. One important factor about this definition is that it is bringing to fore the intergenerational equity aspect, that every generation has to be conscious about what and how they are using the resources that are available to them, and make sure that they do not exhaust everything in such a way that their future generation does not get the opportunity to use the resources in the same manner, or rather don't have those resources at all. For example, we are taking air quality for granted. We are using vehicles, we are using, we are producing, incessantly, without, a lot of pollution barriers. We are letting out a lot of stuff into the air without filtering it. And today we are able to breathe without having to pay for it. But just think, the kind of air pollution issues that now cities have started facing, our future generations, it will not be, will not have the same opportunity to live and to breathe fresh air without paying for it. So, about 2 decades ago, buying water was incomprehensible. You would either carry water from home, or you just you would just borrow it from someone who has it, even while traveling. So you wouldn't buy water. What has happened with commodification of water in the past 2 decades is that now you pay for it. So it has become a commodity, and the moment it becomes a commodity, it does not remain available for the people who cannot afford to pay for it. And then it becomes limited to only those who can pay, who have the money. And that is what would happen to a lot of resources, already has happened. So like water, if tomorrow it starts happening with the air, like in case of COVID, we find that people are running helter-skelter for hospital beds, for oxygen beds, for ventilators. And I would unfortunately to say, I've seen it up close in the last 10 days, that, I mean, we were talking about, person being able to buy fresh air with money. Unfortunately, people are not even able to do that with money. We've heard of cases, read of cases where people are able to pay, they have a lot of money, but there are no ventilators available, there are no oxygen beds available, and people have lost their lives. So the kind of situation that we are creating, the kind of planet that we are turning this earth into, is going to make it more and more inhabitable for future generations. So this intergenerational equity aspect is something that comes out very, very clearly from this definition. But another thing that this definition is criticized for is that intragenerational equity, on which the SDGs kind of harp on. So I'm sure in the earlier session you have already discussed this, that the tagline of Sustainable Development Goals is leave no one behind. And when you say no one, it means no one. You're leaving no human being behind, be it urban, be it rural, be it tribal, be it old, be it young, be it black, be it white, be it woman, be it man. You're leaving no human being behind, but you're leaving no living organism behind. So you're thinking about the life below sea, you're thinking about the life in the highlands, at the North Pole, at the equator, in the air, below the land, below the water. You're thinking of all forms of life. So you're really leaving no one behind. And that is where intragenerational equity comes into picture, where you are trying to make similar opportunities available to everyone. So the opportunities that are available to me as a person who's living in a city like London, or opportunities that are available to me as an individual who's living in a city like Pune, and a person who's living in a small village in Gadchiroli or in Bhandara district or in any other remote areas of India. Certain basic opportunities should be same. I should not be deprived of food, of clothing, of shelter, of education, of light. So if you have gone through the SDGs, you will find that the first 6 to 7 SDGs are talking about these basic facilities of food, of poverty, of education, of health, of water, sanitation, energy. But again, the important part in all these is that which
Ma'am.
Ma'am, you are mute. Hello, ma'am.
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
I don't know
ma'am.
how that happened, but yeah. So when we are talking about these basic necessities, they're mostly social in nature. so that everyone has, all that is required to survive and live a respectable life is available to everyone. But at the same time, if you look at them closely, you'll find that all these social aspects have an environmental angle to it. So when you're talking about energy, you're you're not talking only about affordable energy. You're also talking about clean energy. So it's not only sufficient to have electricity in the house. Uh, it's important to have electricity that I can afford, but at the same time, an a source of energy that does not pollute the climate, that does not, create problems for other human beings on the planet. So that brings in, that puts a question mark on thermal energy, on even nuclear power to some extent. Obviously, all those sources that can create problem, which brings large focus on thermal energy. But at the same time, even large hydropower projects can create problem or do create a problem, right from displacement of people come under the backwaters to where eventually is this electricity used and distributed? To whom does it go? Does it goes to the people who get displaced, or does it go to fuel all the big industries and the malls in the cities? So, so when we are looking at the social aspect, we are also looking at the environmental aspect. And at the same time, without ignoring the economic aspect of those things. So sustainable development is something that takes all these three together, walks. Unfortunately, to a lot of people, sustainable development means that everything has to be green, everything has to be environment friendly. But in that flow of becoming environment friendly, are you also equally affectionate and friendly towards the social aspect? Is equally important. For example, right now you find a lot of organic products in the markets where you have written that this product is organic, this product is organic. But the moment you look closer, you find that the price is thrice than the usual price, whether it is food grains, whether it is cosmetic products, or even processed food, or semi-processed food, or spices for that matter. You have a brand of organic on it, but at the same time, it is not affordable to a large part of the society. So on one hand, we're trying to be environment friendly, but what would happen to the masses then? What is going to happen to the people who cannot afford organic food? So they have to be left to, all that food that is chemically treated and chemically grown. And again, that part of society that cannot afford huge medical bills. So, sustainable development kind of requires a lot of balance and dealing with a lot of caution. So upfront, I wanted to problematize these aspects so that we're clear about it. And now, when we're talking about creative economy for sustainable development. So how will creative economy influence sustainable development? Obviously, if we look at the conventional or whatever, how the creative economy is described or defined by those individuals or aspects that are creative and novel. So their arts, their publishing, architecture, gastronomic aspects. What do they do? If we see how they influence sustainable development, they change perspectives of people. through music, through art, uh, even through designs. You can change the way people live, think, perceive things. Uh, you know, you increasingly find, just to give you an example of, say, even gender perspectives, or even if you would have seen the recent advertisement, where a father, is about to leave for office, and the mother is sitting with the daughter, and they are talking. They're asking the daughter. She's trying to remember something. She's learning. She's trying to remember something. She's not able to do that, and then her mother says, "Try and remember. How can you not remember?" And suddenly, in the next shot, you see that the girl has grown really old. She's looking like an old woman. And then the tagline comes that air pollution caused by excessive use of vehicles leads to fast aging of children. And so it is appealing to people to use their vehicles independently less and less. And that is where you see the father dropping the keys and saying, "Today I'm not going to drive my car to the office." So this is the way that creative economy can actually change perspectives of people and contribute to sustainable development. It can also help in embedding that message in the society, because here I would like to borrow an idea from Kalyan, where he likes to mention this, that working on sustainable development or sustainability is like repairing an engine while it is running. So you can't stop living. You can't say that I'm going to take a holiday now because I want to change the way I want to live, because I want to live in a more sustainable manner. From tomorrow, I want to take a break of 1 month. I will change the way things work, and then I'll start living again. You can't do that. So you have to repair that engine while it is running. You'll have to make changes on the go. And that is where creativity then comes into picture. It starts embedding messages in the society as you're moving. Different products gradually come into the market. The same example that we saw about the organic food being available in the market. The same organic food, if more and more people start buying, more and more farmers will start investing or moving towards organic production or organic agriculture. And that is where it can become available to the masses. But this will have to become a very conscious movement. Another is why creative economy is important. We need, when we are talking about sustainable development, we need a redesigning of our lives. We are so used to using plastic. I go out for shopping and I don't take my bag with me, and I see something really nice. I see some really good fruits, and I say, I want to buy these fruits. I don't have a bag. So I say, chalo plastic de do. मावशी तुमच्याकडे प्लास्टिक असेल तर त्याच्यात देऊन टाका. And for her, she doesn't want to lose the customer. She'll use her plastic bag and give it to me. It is cheap for her. But we don't count the price that we are paying for it. So if we have to redesign this small instance of not using plastic, one aspect was that we have seen suddenly the government came out with a regulation that nobody is going to use plastic in public, and then suddenly people started paying fines and had to pay fines and things like that. But that is from the regulation point of view. But if I want to genuinely build this habit, I'll have to move gradually towards it. I'll have to redesign my habits, not only what I use, but the way I do it. So every time I move out of the house, I can't go barehanded. I'll have to carry a cloth bag with me to make sure that when I'm coming, I have something with me to buy anything nice that I see. This was very basic daily life example, but this is what redesigning would mean. Similarly, with architecture, with furniture, I wouldn't go too much into the details of architecture, but we know that there are a lot of unsustainable practices or material that is being used in making of houses, whether it's cement or whether it's RCC structures. If you go to see, in many places, they are not sustainable. That is where more local products or more local material needs to be used. But this again requires a lot of redesigning and understanding the finances around it. That is where creativity will really play a role. And again, this can be hindered by, intangible resources, goods. If there are no good ideas, or you do not have freedom to experiment, or there is lack of leadership to lead you, saying that yes, if you're trying to do something for sustainable development, here is the space for you, or here is the money for you. Having funding, scholarships, seed funds to start up a new initiative, such kind of leadership is something, if it is not there, this agenda will never move ahead. So this is the kind of influence that you would see when it comes to creative economy influencing sustainable development. And that is where it struck me strongly. I don't know whether you have covered this in the earlier session, that if you want to actually make the SDGs function, these are the 4 levers that the SDGs is talking about. It's talking about how will you make SDGs possible? You can make it possible through public policies, through governance. You can make it possible by changing the way economy and finance work. So in many places, like in case of governance, you would see, yes, as we just discussed, plastic was banned, and there was promotion to use other material for, carrying stuff. So there are many other instances, there are many other examples that we would see in case of governance. Similarly, in case of economy and finance, we find that, bringing in tax structures that will pay, that will make carbon emissions, that will start taxing people based on their carbon emissions. So if someone, whether it is industry or whether it is a small or a big industry or an enterprise, if they are, their carbon footprint is high, the taxation structure would be such that they would be taxed more. So bringing in this aspect in taxation would help in achieving sustainable development. People will start thinking. Individual and community level efforts will surely help in achieving sustainable development. And obviously, science and technology play an important role when we are talking about more energy efficient products, so that whether it is electrical appliances in the house, bulbs or fans, if you have a better technology which will use less energy but give more or similar amount of light, these kind of these are the 4 levers that are talked about to make sustainable development possible. All these actually embed or actually it's implicit that this is not possible without creativity. And therefore, I would say it's very interesting that along with these 4 levers, if the creative stream goes through it, or rather is considered separately also, it wouldn't make a difference. So in addition to this, I would say, creativity runs through all the 4 levers. But at the same time, I would like to highlight a few questions or problematize this whole idea. Is where is this creativity located? When you're talking about creative economy, we are talking about that which can be counted, that which can be, which which is more structured, which is more formal. What about the informal, unstructured, embedded cultural aspects? So where is the center of creativity? Is it in the cities? What about the rural and the tribal areas? What about the creativity there? Another important aspect which is not there on the slide, but is what is the purpose of this creativity? Is it, certain creative arts is mostly for self-expression, but what about that creativity, which, is more in the lines of innovation, where it's more of problem solving and achieving a better way of living? What, where would you place that creativity? There is a huge gap when we come to this aspect. On one hand, we are moving towards more and more sophisticated mobile app where you speak and it is, we've come to the level of dictation. Very soon, we will not even have to dictate to write or send a message. We will just have to think, because the phone will be connected. The device will be connected to your brain, and bam, you just have to think and the device will start working. So we are going to that extent of sophistication, but at the same time, you cross 30 to 40 kilometers from the city and you pop into any of the villages, even if it is on the roadside or little in the interiors. What are those people grappling with? Those people are grappling with unclean water, non-availability of water, unhygienic living conditions, unavailability of electricity, unavailability of health facilities, living in day in, day out with the same medical conditions, health conditions, not enough to eat throughout the year. So there are communities that get sufficient food for say 7 to 8 months. But what happens to the rest of the 4 months? They have to migrate out. So you have a huge influx of migration coming from these areas because they don't have enough to eat. You have children dying due to malnutrition. So what's happening to the creativity here? We need to resolve these issues as well. So on one hand, the economy is kind of forcing people to innovate and to create, to be more creative, and making our lives more and more sophisticated. But on the other hand, we're still grappling with basic survival issues. And this, it's easy to say it's an urban-rural divide, but it is not always an urban-rural divide. It's divide of the classes. And in case of India, it's divide in the caste as well. So where is this creativity located? Is it located in a luxurious location, an apartment, or is it located where it is really needed or to make people survive? I'll again borrow an example from Kalyan, something that he had shared with me earlier from his course in technology and development from IIT, where they were given an instance that in a village, women are drawing water from the well, and it's in a bad condition. The water is flowing around. It's becoming unhygienic, not good sanitation, and it's creating diseases and problems. So how would you resolve this issue? And with a lot of brainstorming, the eventual answer was that if you build a good water drawing system where it's effective, it's easy, less energy consuming for the women who are using it, so that they don't spill water while drawing it out. They draw it out with ease and take it. it will help in resolving this issue. So here, using the creativity and innovativeness to resolve a real life problem is something that would really contribute to making that life or that living more sustainable. Another issue that comes to the fore is the same thing. What about the creative aspects embedded in the culture, but they do not have large economic value? Like this, I mean, resolving an issue of malnutrition will not give you an immediate economic return. Selling or upgrading an existing phone with better apps will give you 10 times more value for that phone and will bring you a lot of money. But finding a solution to the malnutrition at the village level, or resolving the issue of anemia at the village level is not going to give you equivalent economic.
Ma'am, it's
Ma'am,
unmuted.
you are not audible. Ma'am?
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just have 2 more slides to go. Do we have time? Because
Yes, ma'am. We do have.
Yeah, I'll just take a few more minutes and then wind up. So what about those creative aspects that do not have economic value is another question that needs to be thought about. And especially in case of India, there are a lot of, art forms or cultural creative factors, but unfortunately they are embedded in the caste system. So if you look at the typical balutedari system where you have, artisans in the village, but they are embedded in the caste system. So no matter how good their art is, they're still discriminated. So if you put the lens of sustainable development, the whole aspect of social sustainability does not apply because they are not equal. They don't have good remuneration. They don't have good living conditions. And so when we are dealing with this creative aspect here, especially with the artisans and traditional ones, the social inequality and the economic backwardness kind of hits you hard. And that is where we need, from the Indian context, we need to work on the social inequality aspect, which unfortunately is combined with economic backwardness. So if you're socially backward, unfortunately, you become economically backward as well. We've been trying a lot to break from that coupling, or to decouple social backwardness with economic backwardness. But we still have a long way to go. So already a lot of people have started trying to extend the radius of creativity and taking it beyond. So saying that, this creativity can be anywhere. It need not be in any only in the well-known creative sectors, but it could be in any aspect. So creative product is an economic good, service, or experience resulting from creativity. And but again, this is kind of limiting it to a product, to an outcome that can be sold. But as we move ahead, we see that it need not be only product or a technology. It could be a practice. It could be certain values as well. To give you an example of creatively addressing an issue at village level, to ensure that people pay the taxes at the Gram Panchayat level. This is a Gram Panchayat in Aurangabad, which came up with this idea that to ensure that everybody pays taxes, they came up saying that those who pay the taxes will get their, grains milled from the flour mill for free for the whole year. So I don't have to, if I pay my tax, I'll be able to get this service for free. So this is an innovation. This is kind of a practice that actually makes certain things happen. It could be certain values. For example, there are these what you would say. There is this whole movement of eco villages where people live in communes, trying to live in a more and more ecologically harmonious way. Similarly, there is a movement of transition towns across the globe where people are experimenting, trying in different ways to live in a more. We came up with this idea of feelings in more sustenance, rather than just planting any of the trees and making it green and going towards afforestation. Let's plant trees that give us fruit as well. Or they took a decision that they will not let any multinational companies come and run shops or malls or stores in their town. They will have only and only local enterprises, and they will support only local enterprises. So these are kind of innovative and creative practices that they are not products, but they are practices which make a difference. So in this case, this whole term of grassroots innovations. So the question that I had raised in the earlier slide was, where is this creativity based? Is it in the urban areas where there is a lot of money, or where there is economy based on cash, or is it on the margins? So the grassroots innovations is talking about the location of the innovation is on the margins. It is not at the heart of the economy, but it is on the margins. So the purpose of innovation is not to make more money, but purpose of the innovation is to resolve an issue, or rather to live a more sustainable life, to make the life more sustainable or better. So it's a network of artists, activists, and organizations generating novel bottom-up solutions for sustainable development. Solutions that respond to local situations and the interests and values of the communities involved. So there is a saying in Marathi. I wouldn't say a saying. It is something that is written in Gram Gita, that जो जेथीचा रोग तेथेची त्याचे औषध सांग. So wherever there is a problem, the solution is there. The solution is never going to be foreign. Find the solution there itself. But you need to have the eyes. You need to have the brains. You need to have the skill. So, जो जेथीचा रोग तेथेची त्याचे औषध सांग, योजकेची पाहिजे कराया नियोजन कुशलतेने. So you require a real, planner, a skilled person to actually look into the matter and to innovate, to create. So I would like to extend this creativity to this extent, where you locate issues where they are based and look for solutions to those issues in that location. And that is where it also resolves this issue of decentralization and localization. So, because as I had mentioned earlier, sustainable development, though it is global, it has different meaning for different people. So people living in Konkan areas are dealing with the issue of heavy rain, but people living in Marathwada are dealing with the issue of lack of water. So in the broad terms, they are dealing with sustainability, but with different aspects. So they will require different solutions. One size does not fit all. So, people in Marathwada will have to work on water conservation, different methods of water conservation when they want to sustain. Whereas, because of the soil type, because of the land type, because of the rainfall, because of the slope, because of the gradient, whereas people living in the Konkan area will have to work it out differently because they have a different soil type. And that is where I would like to draw your attention to decentralization and localization. So that is why you need to look at the problem in the context and not develop a solution somewhere, sitting in Mumbai, sitting in Delhi, sitting in London, sitting in New York, and then apply it across. You have to sit where the problem is created, look for solutions there, and then gradually build upon it. So that is where, and not that people are not being creative there, but it's a matter of how that creativity is nurtured, developed, and promoted. For example, in case of malnutrition, everybody's heard of Dr. Abhay Bang, who dealt with this whole issue of malnutrition. Looking closely, uh, providing food and providing healthcare facilities to these people would have been so much more easier. It's easy to come out with some regulations, rules to do it, but he actually sat down, studied the way the tribals live, what is actually happening, how, what are the practices, uh, what are their daily practices, how is a pregnant woman and a child who's newborn treated, and then he came up with this whole protocol of how this malnutrition can be stopped. So, these are just random examples of how innovations, rather grassroots innovations from the margins, can help in bringing about more sustainability um, in practice. I'll just come up with another example. Is something that I saw while we were in the UK. There is this whole movement of community gardens that is there, where a small patch of land is made available, and then people come and do gardening there. There's a huge history of the Second World War to it. But interestingly, certain gardens, certain patches of land work for people, or rather, it's made available for people who have mental health problems. They come together for gardening, but that is their place for socializing. So, on one hand, it is helping them socialize, people who have mental challenges, but at the same time, they're working with their hands, making, growing food in a more organic manner and using it. So it is this kind of local interventions are able to resolve a lot of local problems in combination. So if we are to look at grassroots innovation through, or in the context of sustainability, going by the definitions, grassroots innovation in itself are identified from the lens of sustainability, saying that only those initiatives are considered grassroots innovations, those that are sustainable. But I would say that there are a lot of innovations people come up with in local areas to resolve their issues, but they are not sustainable. For example, in the villages, we find that they are not able to afford electricity. What they do, आपण मराठीत त्याला आकडा टाकणं म्हणतो. आकडा टाकून वीज घेतली जाते. This is an innovation. Is it sustainable? So, looking at, you need to look at innovations, but then look at it in the frame of sustainability and see how it can be actually applied. So, these kind of local innovations, there are people who are innovating at the local level who need support to understand how that innovation can work in the long term, can work in different perspectives. Will it be environmentally viable? Can it become a product? Can it become a practice? Another aspect, especially in the context of India, we need to be careful is, does that innovation resolve the issue of only a specific community, or is it applicable to everyone? Does it consider social inclusion and justice appropriately, or is a certain section of society left out? So that brings in the question of democratization and social inclusion as well. And another aspect that needs to be thought about is, if it is a local innovation, how is it going to go beyond that village? How is it going to go beyond that locality? How it can be carried on? I'll again share an example that Kalyan shared with me, was in Thrissur. A group of Thrissur in Kerala, a group of people were trained as paralegals. And then these paralegal professionals or individuals started helping people in different aspects. So whether it is working out their Narega applications, or whether it is, filing a litigation, or facing a litigation, whether it is working out or dealing with government systems. So this kind of intervention actually helped in making the society or the social interactions more stable and more grounded. So I would say that grassroots innovations, making them work in that context, but in a more social and inclusive manner, is a challenge that we need to deal with. And another is taking them beyond that particular locality. So there is innovativeness, there is creativity on the margins, but it needs support. And that support is something that can be provided from the highly educated or specially educated individuals like us. So I would like to stop here. I have overstepped my time, unfortunately, and it has spilled over. But yeah, I didn't get enough time to organize everything properly, but I hope the message reached everyone as I hoped to.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a very informative session. I would like to thank you on behalf of Marathwada Shankarrao Chavan Law College and Department of Law, Mumbai University. Thank you for giving your precious time to us, enlightening us on creative economy from an Indian point of view. By giving us various examples, your session indeed made us think out of the box. Also, ma'am, we really hope for a speedy recovery of Mr. Kalyan Dasarwar, sir. We desire to connect with both of you in future for more such enlightening sessions. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It is said that शब्दांमध्ये झळकावी ज्ञान कर्म भक्ती स्वानुभवातून जन्मावा प्रत्येक शब्द. आणि खरोखरच हाच अनुभव आज आम्हाला दोघांकडनं नेहमीच मिळत असतो, कल्याण सरांकडनं आणि तुमच्याकडनं. So we were fortunate to have Kalyan sir. He talked about the practical approach of the human rights in the Sri Lankan conference that we had last year. And we're fortunate to have you in this national conference. So again, we hope and no, we wish the speedy recovery of everyone, and we'll have both of you again online as well as offline to our campus. Thank you so much, Pradnya ma'am, for enlightening the students on such a practical approach topic of the economy, sustainable development, and some part of the public policy as well. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you very much. It was great interacting and having this platform. I hope it proves useful for the students in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, definitely, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes. Now we'll move to the valedictory session in next 2 minutes. So students are requested to stay in the meeting. Swati ma'am.
Hello,
Yes.
Saurabh?
Yes,
Saurabh.
ma'am.
Hello. Yeah.
Deepali.
It's the last session. This is
Thank you everyone for their wonderful.
We have received 10 research papers, and out of which 8 research papers been presented in this particular conference. As I said, we have received more than 275 attendees as in participants. Now, we already have got an ISBN number for the publication of the research papers in an edited book. So in the next week or two, we'll be having the publication of all these 8 research papers in an edited book, and which will be available online as well as offline in your college libraries as well. So we're going to send the hard copies and the soft copies both to the paper presenters, and it will be there in the institutes, both of the institutes as well. So we have received almost a lot of comments through the feedback form, which has been circulated after each and every session, and there will be the last feedback form, overall feedback form, which will be sent soon in your respective groups. So we have received a huge response from that side as well, saying that we need more such of interactive sessions, informative sessions, and the conferences as well. So to make a note of it, that this is just not the end of the conference, but it is the start of the academic ties between Department of Law, University of Mumbai, as well as Shankarrao Law College, one of the premier law colleges in India. So we'll be having the academic ties as discussed by the head of the department as well in the welcome address, that will be having the faculty exchange, student exchange, and the research collaborations as well. Okay, so I hope all the participants will join, will be the part of these academic ties in further coming months as well. So I rest my report reading here, and I request Swati Rotela ma'am to deliver the word of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, dear students, it is indeed a privilege to thank you all for participating in this event, which has been a joint collaboration by Department of Law, University of Mumbai and Shankarrao Chavan Law College, Pune. The reason why we are being over here is to discuss into sustainability and creativity. Now, without taking a lot of time on your part, I really cherish to thank Dr. Rajashri Varadi, Head Department of Law, Mumbai University, who agreed with us to have this collaboration, and she has assisted us in conducting this fruitful event. I thank Dr. Kranti Deshmukh, Principal of Shankarrao Chavan Law College, who wholeheartedly participated in the event. I also thank our trustee, Bhausaheb, who is the chairman of Maharashtra, who is the chairman of Shankarrao Chauhan Law University. Further, I thank Professor Dilip Uke, who is the Vice Chancellor of Maharashtra National Law University, my teacher, my mentor, and a teacher and philosopher to most of the students, who really delivered the keynote address very well, mentioning about the sustainable goals which have to be achieved and which has been recorded by the United Nations. And definitely India is a part, and we are moving in this directions. We have to take further efforts to see what can be done in relation to food security for all our people. And definitely the last speaker, that is Mrs. Pradnya Dasavar, she really pointed out that food, it is not only for me or for you, but food has to be nutrient, it has to has that value, and it should be made available for all. Now this was my observation, which was there in Dr. Deshmukh's presentation also. Earlier yesterday, we had all the presentations which had been delivered by the chair speakers, that is Advocate Sridhar Purandare on contrabands and countervailing products. What happens when we fail to follow the international standards, rules, regulations, and how a parallel economy continues. I thank Professor Ganesh Hingmire, who is the pioneer for protecting the geographical indications in India, and he is globally recognized. I thank our student Professor Gauri Gargate, who is into IP management and who is currently working with the IIT Kharagpur. I also deliver my thanks to all my colleagues in the Department of Law, to all the colleagues in the Shankarrao Chauhan Law College, all the student participants who have assisted us at the backstage, who have been involved in conducting the seminar a success. So just to thank and to make a note, that is shaile shaile na manikyam motikam na gaje gaje, sadhavo nahi sarvatra chandanam na vane vane. The same way our environment, our earth is very rare, let us preserve it together for our generations to come. So creativity, sustainability, it is the thought, it is the food for the day, and it continues for long. So with these words, I thank each and everyone. I thank our non-teaching staff of both the institutes. I also take the privilege of thanking our Vice Chancellor, Professor Suhas Pednekar, our Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, Dr. Ravindra Kulkarni, and our Registrar, Dr. Baliram Gaikwad. So with this keynote, I thank you over here. And not the least, it is Professor Saurabh Obale, who is the pioneer, who is the key person who has initiated this kind of activity and program. And there are many more to come in future. So I thank each and everyone from the bottom of my heart, students. And you are the future generations who will be continuing with this creativity and sustainability and more miles to achieve. So thank you all. Thank you, students. Thank you, Saurav, for having this wonderful program. Thanks to you. God bless you. Thank you, Saurav.
Thank you, ma'am. So here we come to an end. So at last I can say that Jaisi Deepakari ka dhakuti paribahuteja te prakati taisi ye sadbuti the koti manonai. So this is just a beginning, we can say, and whatever that we have gained is just not to the 250 students, but these 250 students will when implement it in practicality, then we'll see, and then we'll come to know the power of the mind and the power of the will that you have in with you. Okay, thank you everyone. Now I declare that our national conference is over. So we'll be available on our respective phones and email addresses. So if you have any doubt, you can contact on those contact details. Thank you everyone, and see you soon. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye, students. Bye, Saurabh, for the day. Thank you.